President Trump and Vladimir Putin, two of the most forceful actors on the world stage, face to face with a handshake. So will they talk on the sidelines in Vietnam?
It is right that the president meet with Vladimir Putin and talk to him as tough as he talks to Xi Jinping behind closed doors. You meet with other heads of state, whether they're good guys or not.
U.S. Senate candidate Judge Roy Moore continues to deny allegations of sexual misconduct that are being levied against him.
It never happened, and I don't even like hearing it because it never happened, and they're doing this a month away, 4 weeks away, after 40 years in public service.
She just wrote another 900-page book, right? And what was it? The thing was, what happened? What happened? Ma'am, with all due respect, and I really mean this, what happened? You got your
This Stars and Stripes honor flight is taking about 150 veterans from the Vietnam War, World War II, and the Korean War to see the memorials built in their honor, some for the very first time.
Marching band is with us all morning long. We're celebrating Veterans Day, Veterans Weekend. That's one of our favorite holidays of the whole year. And nothing better to celebrate. And we've got Griff on the couch this morning.
Thanks for being here, brother.
Thank you. Listen, it's a huge honor. And, you know, 17 years ago, I came to this network with Ollie North to do war stories, to tell the stories of the brave soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines like yourself, Pete. Today is the day that we say thank you. And over these 17 years, it's been the greatest job Fox has ever given me. And I have a better understanding for why this day matters. So if you have plans this morning, cancel them. You're not going to the Home Depot. You may have to go to a soccer game, but if you can get around it, stay here because we have so many good vets and, of course, the 78th Army Band out there.
That's true. We want your pictures, your thoughts. Send them in at friends@foxnews.com because everyone shares in this. I took a moment yesterday with my boys. Do you know what Veterans Day is? What is it about?
What did they say to you?
That are veterans? They knew a little bit, you know, but they're young. So the more they understand and learn, the more important it is. I think as parents, we have to be very intentional about passing these civic traditions on to the next generation.
It's such a good point. So we're going to be celebrating it all morning long and honoring our veterans and those that are currently serving in our military. But yes, please send us your photos as well. And there's, of course, a lot of news going on in the country and overseas. The president was in China for the past couple days and just landed in Hanoi, Vietnam, after making a deal, as we are now learning, with Vladimir Putin to fight ISIS over in Syria.
So much speculation about that meeting, the handshake. Will they meet? Will they not meet? It turns out we have a shared foe in ISIS, and both President Trump and Vladimir Putin have made had a conversation about how to take that on. Also, some speculation. We're just learning now that the president pushed and asked Vladimir Putin about Russian meddling in the elections, and he denied it. Vladimir Putin denied it multiple times in questions for President Trump. Of course, the media breathless about asking about that. It turns out that he did ask.
Griff, I'll just read this real quick. This comes in from our pool, and they asked President Trump about the meeting with Vladimir Putin. He says I guess Putin said he did not meddle. He said he didn't meddle. He asked him again. The president did. You can only ask so many times. I just asked him again. He said he absolutely did not meddle in the election. He did not do what they are saying he did. He also said every time he sees me, he says, I didn't do that, and I really believe that when he tells me that, but he says, I didn't do that, I think he is very insulted by it, which is not a good thing for our country. That is what the president just told our pool there overseas about his meeting.
Let me just offer a little bit of context here. A couple of years ago, I was in Hanoi, and I went there, and I went to the Hanoi Hilton, the museum that Vietnam holds up is there, we beat America. The symbolism of President Trump on Veterans Day in Hanoi, where that country has made so much progress. It's like going to New York City. It's beautiful. The restaurants are awesome. But that hotel, that Hanoi Hotel Museum that we beat America is still there. And you bet when he is meeting with our current foes, and Russia is a foe, make no mistake, this administration has made no mistake. It is going to be even more powerful as we learn more about his conversations with Putin, but also the president over there on this day paying tribute to those that fought in that faraway place. And the leader that is going around the world on this 12-day trip to China, to every other country, saying, listen, we're putting America first. It's a new day, a new dawn, and that is going to be heard. Nowhere is going to be heard louder than in Hanoi, Vietnam.
Of course, and to meet with and talk to Vietnam veterans on this Veterans Day, very fitting to be there as well. But you talk about the 12-day trip. I mean, this is a...
What day are we on now?
I don't know.
8?
8,
9,
7-ish. Let us know. We'll figure that out and bring it to you. But he's on the back end of a long trip, having come from China to Vietnam. Sebastian Gorka, a new national security analyst here at Fox News Channel, had some thoughts on this trip and how effective it's been. This is what he had to say.
You've seen this all before. Every trip he's had has knocked it out of the ballpark, whether it's that incredible speech he gave in Warsaw about the Judeo-Christian values that our Western civilization in America is built upon, whether it was going into the heart of the Islamic world, into Riyadh, and really talking tough love to all those Arab leaders about how they have to take responsibility for the extremists and the terrorists in their communities, or whether it's standing just miles from the DMZ and talking about the evil that is the North Korean Stalinist regime. Every trip has been incredible, and it's just not interesting to the mainstream media, just as the domestic achievements aren't interesting either, whether it's the lowest unemployment in 17 years, the 25% increase in the stock market. There's reality, and then there's what the mainstream media or the fake news industrial complex would not have you pay attention to.
By the way, I believe we're on day 9, and you know, Dr. Gorka's comments are certainly well received. However, I would say in response to him that it's far too early to tell. The real test is whether or not China is going to come and what progress they're going to show after all the pomp and circumstance. And that's an important part of it.
Sure.
And China did it very well to roll out the red carpet for us, whether or not they're going to do more to confront North Korea, whether they're going to enforce a UN sanction.
Totally correct. However, the bar was very low after the Obama administration of restoring American leadership in the world, reassuring our allies, checking China. He's doing things that American presidents should have been doing for the last 8 years and unfortunately haven't been.
Well, the bar's pretty low on tax reform, too, and we're about to talk about that.
You've been covering that
and I've covered it
more
a
than
lot.
anyone, Griff, and so we'd love to get your take. But yeah, so we're now getting a better sense of the bill coming from the House, the bill coming from the Senate. Some differences there. They're trying to combine the bill, I think, come Monday, and hopefully get to some common ground because they're wanting to get this done. From what I hear on Chris, they want the president to be able to sign this by Christmas. I don't know if that's going to happen, Griff, but that's what I'm hearing.
What's happening right now is the messaging. You'll see all day long that Mitch McConnell and the Republicans have a bill that's being offered that raises the taxes on the middle class. But what's actually going to happen, the House is going to vote on their version next week, and then by Thanksgiving, the Senate's going to start marking theirs up. Whether or not they come together, the bottom line is they're trying to do something that hadn't been done in 3 decades.
So if you open your failing New York Times this morning on A14, and it fails because it fails to tell you the truth, and it gives you a headline. Here's the headline: Senate plan could increase taxes on some middle-class workers. We should add an S to that. When in reality, if you read the entire plan, here's the last portion of if you read the entire article. Overall, the Senate bill would cut individual income taxes by about $30 billion in 2018 and by $900 billion over the next decade, or according to Congress's keep going, nonpartisan Joint Committee on Taxation. And most people in all income groups would see a tax cut, although the cuts would be modest for the lower earners. So
Which sounds good, but you see the headline and you think this is not a deal that I want.
The bill is not perfect, right? It does cut corporate taxes. The Senate wants to phase it in. There's a hidden tax bracket in the House bill for high earners. Some deductions are going, some are staying. You don't want the special interest to write this bill, which is the big concern. For conservatives, you want cuts and simplification. Cuts, you want rates to go down in a Reagan-esque way, and you want a simplified code so people can't rig it. And the more Washington gets its hands on it, the worse it becomes. That's the bar by which we should judge it. But the New York Times is going to judge it poorly, no matter what, because they want Trump and the Republicans.
I think it's important, though, for Congress to be honest about it, too, right, to the American people, because we saw this play out with Obamacare. You can keep your doctor, prices are going to go down. That wasn't the reality, and that the American people were incredibly upset and heartbroken over that. So with tax reform, I think it's important to just lay out and be completely honest about what they're going to be getting.
Well, and that transparency is going to be, what if the special interests and lobbyists who have a big hand in this markups of both bills, what have they done? We won't know the impact for days or weeks to come. But let me say this, your failing New York Times at least was honest on one thing. This line, it projected that the Senate bill would increase gross domestic product by 3.7% over the next decade. You want that? We're at 3% under regulatory reform. They're offering tax reform. Do you want to go up 3% or you want to stay where you are? That's the question that the Republicans should be making now, and I don't want to do their job for them.
Yeah. All right, well, some other news this morning. Alabama Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore tells our own Sean Hannity that the allegations against him are completely false.
This as a new report surfaces that one of his accusers worked for Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign.
Ellison Barber joins us live from Washington with the details. Ellison.
Good morning to you guys. Roy Moore is accused of making inappropriate sexual advances on 4 teenagers when he was in his 30s, including a 14-year-old girl. According to a report in the Washington Post, this happened over 3 decades ago. The age of consent in Alabama in the late 70s and now is 16. The then 14-year-old says the Senate hopeful kissed her and touched her over her bra and underpants. The other 3 accusers were between the ages of 16 and 18. As adults, they say the relationships were inappropriate. Moore denies the allegations.
Allegations are completely false and misleading. If you abuse a 14-year-old, you shouldn't be a Senate candidate. I believe they're brought only to stop a very successful campaign.
One of his accusers, who says she was 17 when Moore pursued her, is reportedly a sign language interpreter, and some photos have surfaced online showing her interpreting during campaign events for then presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. Local reports say the woman, Deborah Gibson, owns a sign language interpreting company that has offices in Florida and Alabama and provides services for businesses, politicians, governments, and a whole lot of other things. A sign language interpreter is typically paid. They may not have anything to do with the business or politician they're signing for. As far as we know, her work with the campaign was interpreting, not necessarily something related to political activities. Oftentimes interpreters work much like a concert vendor who sells T-shirts, and they may love the band playing or they could absolutely hate them. The Washington Post says none of the accusers donated to or worked for Moore's campaign or Moore's Democratic opponent or the people that challenged him during the Republican primary. According to AL.com, Gibson did not respond to requests for comments on whether or not her services were donated to the campaign. But you guys, all 4 of the women in the Washington Post article used their names. The accounts are detailed, and the reporters interviewed over 30 people for this story. Last Fox poll had Moore and his Democratic opponent tied in a dead heat. Pete, Abby, Griff.
And just a month away. Ellison, thank you so much.
Oof.
See how that plays out.
Coming up, Bo Bergdahl is a free man, and now he could be a rich man after pleading guilty to desertion. Our next guest searched for Bergdahl, and his military dog was killed in that search. He joins us next.
Then Jack could be alive after all. The alternate ending. You got to see this.
What?
The alternate ending to the Titanic.
No.
From Rose.
Well, just days after avoiding prison from a military judge, former Army Sergeant Bo Bergdahl could cash in a huge check from the Pentagon.
The Army says he could get more than $300,000 in back pay for the 5 years he spent in captivity after deserting his post in Afghanistan.
Our next guest took part in the search for Bergdahl, and his military dog was killed in that effort. He now is here to weigh in. Retired Senior Chief Petty Officer Mike Toussaint. Mike, thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really sorry about the loss of your dog. Tell us your story.
Well, the story is a tragic one, actually. I mean, we were deployed at the time when Private Bergdahl made the decision to walk off his post. And we got a call, or got notified that they had intelligence that they had an idea where his location was. And we received that notification just after we had turned down going out on another mission because of environmental conditions. But this decision was then quickly made to form a plan and get on the helicopters and go get him back.
Can I ask you, Mike, you know, I think it's the case with Remco is the dog's name, and was killed with Navy SEALs under heavy gunfire. You know, those dogs are just like a member of the team. They're just like having a brother in arms out there. When you hear that Bergdahl may get $300,000, what was your reaction when you first heard that?
I was beyond disgusted. I was absolutely shocked that he was bold enough to ask for back pay after he just got away with the most egregious crime that I can think of and came out of it basically scot-free. And the fact that he asked for compensation and back pay further solidifies to me the fact that he truly has no remorse for his actions. You know, and I think it's a slap to the face for every person that was involved. a slap to the face to everybody that's wearing the uniform, and it just, like I said, solidifies that he truly doesn't have any remorse for his actions.
Yeah, you think about the 6 lives that were lost searching for Bo Bergdahl, and their families, of course, will never be the same. I'm sure just heartbroken by all of this. What is your message this morning after all of this has happened? You now know the ruling. He will not serve time in prison. What is the message that you have to the military and to the American people?
Well, to the military, I would say, keep your head up. You know, it's a sad day because the fact that a Army colonel was able to come to the conclusion that he did not deserve any jail time. I'm sure that everybody was offended by that. And to the American people, you know, I would just say it's a tragedy, and that, you know, there is no excuse for him to be out free, because I guarantee he's going to be out making a movie, making all kind of money, exploiting this whole situation. So he doesn't even need this back pay, because he's going to have officers to write a book. I guarantee it.
Mike, I got to tell you real quickly, because we got to go, but how about this? How about if Bo Bergdahl donated all $300,000, if he got it, to a charity that supports military dogs?
Yeah.
Would you support that?
That'd be great, but I still would, I would support that, but I still wouldn't take away from the way I feel about his actions. You know, it'd be the honorable thing to do, but the most honorable thing to do would have been not allow the request for that money to be put in. You know, he had the choice to be able to say, no, don't even ask for that money because I don't deserve it, and be grateful that he got the punishment that he did and then walk away with it.
Right.
But he didn't. He's that arrogant
Mike,
to ask for the money.
Mike, thank you for being with us this morning. We're sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that.
All right. Thank you.
All right. More Fox and Friends after this.
Some quick headlines. Greek life cut off at another major college. The University of Michigan's Interfraternity Council suspending all frats and sororities amid multiple reports of sexual misconduct, drug abuse, and hazing. Greek life also on hold at Florida State University after a student death and drug charges. And Yale University is trying to explain its intentions after taking down portraits of white men ahead of a Halloween party. In an email, Pearson College head Stephen Davis wrote that they would leave the walls blank in hopes to spark conversation about diversity. Davis claims the email has been misrepresented and the portraits have since been remounted. Pete, over to you.
All right, interesting. All right, Republican leaders are making sure tax reform is priority number one.
We ran in 2016 on doing this tax reform. The president ran on doing this tax cut and tax reform. So this is about fulfilling our promises to the American people. This is about actually improving people's lives and making a positive difference.
True statement. But in passing this reform, is it more important to get it right or to get it done? Here to discuss is talk show host Chris Plant and New York City Councilman Joe Borelli. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us this morning. Chris, let me start with you. There's been some criticism of both the House and the Senate plan. They're different, but both have made some changes or some tweaks based on rules in the Senate and the House. Do you feel like they're getting it right? Are they delivering truly on a promise of tax reform?
Well, it's a classic Washington train wreck at this point. The House version is very different than the Senate version. There's a lot to dislike about both of them. There are certain things to like about both of them. And this stuff is apparently harder than it looks, and it's harder than we would think, apparently, with all of the infighting and the rice bowls to be protected on Washington, D.C., in Washington, D.C. But are they getting it right? Honestly, I'm sort of reserving judgment until they go to conference. They come up with one bill that they all agree on, and then I'm going to feel free to be critical of it. But in the meantime, it's a work in progress, and I actually wait for the final result before I become hysterical about the elements.
Sure. Joe, to you on that, a lot of conservatives looking at this bill and saying, well, there's a hidden tax bracket for high earners. Some of these deductions, you know, as the special interest gets their hands on it, it's the cuts and the simplification a lot of people wanted isn't happening. Joe, I mean, should conservatives get on board, or should it be a wait and see?
Look, I think conservatives should get on board. Let's point out that there's been a lot of misinformation about this bill. On one side, you have Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi saying this is tax cuts for the rich. On the other side, you have the Wall Street Journal saying that it's actually increasing taxes on the rich. The truth is that it's easy to find reasons to vote against any bill. It's very easy to do that. The hard part is finding a tax plan that actually cuts taxes for the majority of middle-class Americans and increases our global global competitiveness in terms of businesses. That's what Paul Ryan's right. You heard it there earlier. This is what the Republican Party was elected to do, and the real danger to them comes to them if they don't deliver on this.
True, but it was what the Republican Party was elected to do. But if you just pass something that doesn't affect real outcomes, is it really effective, Joe? Do you have any concerns that a watered-down bill won't have the impact you want?
Look, I'm a New Yorker. I have concerns over the state and local tax, sure. I have concerns over a lot of things. But the Joint Committee on Taxation was pretty clear that people at every single income level will see a tax cut. And of course, the corporate tax cuts will certainly increase productivity of our economy and hopefully lead to higher growth, higher than 3.5%.
Which places like the failing New York Times fail to account for. Chris, I have to get your take. Steve Bannon, who's been hypercritical of the establishment, and I believe rightfully so, said this about the future of Mitch McConnell. I'll put it up on our screen. He said, "It's not my personal mission, but it is an objective that I have an objective that Mitch McConnell will not be majority leader, and I believe will be done before this time next year." Does it matter whether tax reform is passed or not? What is the future of Mitch McConnell?
Well, look, Mitch McConnell's been under fire for a long time for being way too wishy-washy, too establishment, too old school, and not with the program of making the Republican Party the party of conservatives. Mitch McConnell is also a pretty good parliamentarian, and he's good at manipulating the system as the rules exist. And will he not be here a year from now? I would suspect that Steve Bannon is up against it here if he's planning on taking out Mitch McConnell within the next year.
So you don't think do you think he should go? That's the question.
Do I think he should go? I think we could use more conservative. And look, I think we could use a fighter. We need a fighter. The Republican Party and conservatives need a fighter to lead the Senate because there is a big fight going on over everything in Washington. And Mitch McConnell tends to fight it from the shadows. He's very soft-spoken. He's very quiet. He demurs way too often. And look, President Trump was elected because he's a brawler, because he's a fighter.
Yeah.
And Republican voters are sick and tired of milquetoast Republicans being steamrolled at every turn, and it happens to Mitch McConnell much too regularly.
Boy, that's true, Joe. We only have 10 seconds here. Mitch McConnell, stay or go?
I think he stays, but I think the real test, let me start here. I don't blame anyone like Steve Bannon for trying to hold Republicans' feet to the fire, but I think that the Democrats are actually the ones who are going to be on the defensive.
We've got to leave it right there. Thank you both. More of this debate will continue. More Fox and Friends.
To honor Veterans Day. Sergeant First Class Brian Enline, you're here with us. Tell us about the 78th Army Band.
So the 78th Army Band is an Army Reserve unit stationed at Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst. So the group you see before you, this kind of our part-time job. We're all civilians. I'm a music teacher. We have data analysts, mailmen, everything you can ever imagine. And this is our way of serving our country through music.
You guys get together about once a month to rehearse?
That's correct. We get together once a month, and then 2 weeks in the summer we complete our annual training, and that is our minimum requirement.
And in one practice a month, you guys can sound this good?
That's what we always shoot for.
That's amazing. So what's it like to be here honoring Veterans Day with this group of people?
Well, I mean, it's such a unique opportunity to be here in New York, greatest city, and have the opportunity to represent not just the United States Army, the United States Army Reserve, but all veterans everywhere as we celebrate on Veterans Day today.
Well said. We are so happy you guys are here this morning. You're going to be here playing all morning long for us.
That's correct, sir.
It's an honor for us to have you here.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Guys, we'll send it back to you inside.
All right, thank you so much, Rick. And of course, you all know today is the day that we honor our veterans for their service.
And one organization is going beyond the call of duty to make sure those who fought in our past wars know how appreciated they are.
Fox News correspondent and Navy veteran herself, Leah Gabriel, joins us now with more.
Well, good morning, Pete, Abby, and Griff, and happy Veterans Day to all of those who have served. It's called the Stars and Stripes Honor Flight, and it's ensuring that veterans of World War II and the Korean and Vietnam Wars make it to Washington to see their memorials. I was fortunate to meet the amazing people who were part of the Honor Flight's 43rd mission. Take a look.
Whose bright stripes and bright stars.
It's 5 a.m. on a Saturday, but at Mitchell International Airport in Milwaukee, you would never know it. Many of these veterans have memories of leaving this airport somber and destined for war. Now, it's a party to celebrate and honor those who've served. How excited are you about this?
I'm extremely excited. It's a good feeling. It's a very good feeling.
It's just amazing.
Excitement is high as we head to our nation's capital. This Stars and Stripes honor flight is taking about 150 veterans from the Vietnam War, World War II, and the Korean War to see the memorials built in their honor, some for the very first time. Among them, 3 brothers, Roger, Con, and Grant Hagen, all served in the Vietnam War between 1964 and 1974.
Miracle, the fact that we all survived.
The 3 served different roles: a grunt, an instructor, a pilot.
We don't talk about it. Most guys don't. For some reason, it feels okay to do that this weekend.
And that's just one part of the Stars and Stripes Honor Flight's mission.
I get like a tingle inside my heart, making them smile. It's just awesome seeing the smiles on their faces.
You guys were in Vietnam and you didn't get that welcome home. What does it feel like right now to get that welcome home?
I can't say anything. I'm going to cry.
When we got back from Vietnam, there was no welcome. It was like nobody cared about us, to be honest with you. It's the welcome home we never got.
Time at the World War II Memorial brought awe, while the Vietnam Memorial brought tears.
Love you, man.
As you approach the Vietnam Memorial, there is a sea of names. Names that mean so much to these veterans.
Every name on there represents a family that was killed.
And also on their minds as they saw the wall and the gravestones at Arlington Cemetery, their own brushes with death.
I got shot down in a helicopter. It was like a car crash. We were going into the top of a mountain. Mortars went off. Everything went wrong in the helicopter. The way down, on fire, smoke, holes appearing in the windshield. It was somewhat traumatic.
You were the pilot that brought the helicopter down, and everyone survived.
That's correct.
If I could salute you.
Thank you.
Back on the plane, a special surprise.
Mail call! Mail call! Ainsley Hagen! You got mail!
Vets received letters of thanks from their loved ones.
This is my favorite. This is my grandchildren. I'm their hero.
It has been a long and fulfilling day, but it's not over yet. For many, returning to their loved ones is that welcome home they've been waiting so long for. So how are you feeling right now?
Top of the world.
This was such an incredible experience, and it would not have happened without all the amazing volunteers who came out. Those include Milwaukee Brewers pitcher Jacob Barnes and sports broadcaster Bill Schroeder. To find out how you can help out this amazing organization, head to starsandstripeshonorflight.org. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Leah. That is such a special package.
Stuff.
I love that.
That's amazing. You know, when we did War Stories, I mentioned that earlier, I came here 17 years ago to do it. We ended it every time with Ali saying, and theirs is a story that deserves to be told. Leah telling those stories and being with those Vietnam veterans, it's really special, and it's important to recognize that all day long. In fact, if you're out and you're at lunch or you're at the grocery store and you see a veteran, buy it. Pull out your wallet and make their day.
But right now it's breakfast.
Coffee, yes.
Yeah.
That's a great point. All right, I do want to bring you some other headlines that we're following this morning. A developing story, comedian Louis C.K. admitting sexual misconduct after 5 women came forward with allegations. In a statement, C.K. saying this, and quote, "These stories are true. At the time, I said to myself that what I did was okay. The power I had over these women is that they admired me, and I wielded that power irresponsibly. I've been remorseful of my actions." Both HBO and FX now severing ties with C.K., whose upcoming movie was also scrapped. And while all eyes are on President Trump in Vietnam, South Korea is joining the United States in joint naval exercises in the Pacific. The 4-day drills involving 3 U.S. aircraft carriers. This in response to North Korea's mounting nuclear threats, making a joint show of force during President Trump's Asia tour. And a former Army Ranger announcing his candidacy for political office in true Ranger fashion. Bobby Cox descending from the sky in South Carolina. Here he's seeking election to the State House. The veteran of 4 tours in Iraq vowing to bring conservative values to that seat. That's one way to do it, huh?
All the way,
Get some attention.
All the way.
All right, well, it has long been a question for fans of the movie Titanic. Could Jack have actually survived?
I'll never let go. I promise.
I cry every time.
Me
I've
too.
seen it so
I should
many
not admit
times.
that. I cry. I do.
I believe it, Pete. All right, well, Kate Winslet, who played Rose in the 1997 film, revealing that she believes both Jack, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, and Rose could have survived if only she had not let go. At an appearance this week, the British actress admitting that there was likely room on the wooden float for the both of them to survive together.
Why did I never think of that? I don't know if we can go to the photo of it, but like the door she was on had a lot of room on it.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't Jack just get on the door and hang out with Kate Winslet, and the movie would have ended very differently?
But well, there wouldn't have been a movie. That's the point. Yeah. If she wouldn't have let go, we would never have had the movie. We never have had DiCaprio.
No, what
that would have been
her and
terrible.
Jack would have lived forever in bliss.
We would have
With
had
the
no movie.
They would have had the diamond. They would have had bliss.
But it's sort of this love story that existed on the Titanic.
So
you
leave it
know,
right there?
and then you leave it there, and she remembers it.
It would have crushed
forever.
Celine Dion's music career.
I do cry at that movie. I have a heart. It's small.
All right, moving on.
Yeah.
Democrats are looking for a new savior, but should that savior be former Vice President Joe Biden? 2 Democrats here to debate coming up.
And the NAACP wants to change the national anthem because, of course, it's racist. Alveda King, the niece of Dr. Martin Luther King, here to react to that.
Welcome back. With the California branch of the NAACP now claiming the national anthem is racist and says Congress should change it. Their problem is with the 3rd verse that says their blood has washed out their foul footsteps pollution. No refuge could save the hireling and slave from the terror of flight of the gloom of the grave.
Do they have a case? Here to weigh in is Alveda King, the niece of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Alveda, tell us what this is all about.
Good morning, Fox and friends. I want to give you this quick little true story. It's not fake news at all. But I was with some school children yesterday and with adults and parents, and the school had been honoring Veterans Day. The little children were singing the Star Spangled Banner, and it's a catchy tune, and they liked it. So the adults all around were tense, including me, and some were like, Key was a racist, which seems to be true if you really study that history, and all of that. And yet he was angry that one of his friends had been pulled into the melee, into slavery, servitude, and all of that. So the little kids were like, well, what's wrong with the song? What's wrong with the song? And then it occurred to me, it's not the song, it's not the flags, it's not the Confederate statutes, but it's our hearts. We need a transformation of the heart. We're one blood. Acts 17:26, we're all human beings. So we're still fighting and wanting to bury the hatchet in each other's backs, not take the hatchet out and embrace each other and get healed. And so the NAACP, I hope they realize it's more than a song, and changing the song without changing the hearts of the people. We need a blood transfusion. You know, our hearts need to be transformed. My uncle, Martin Luther King Jr., said we have to learn to live together as brothers, and I added sisters, or perish as fools. So the little kids get it. And it's not about skin color or who was a racist, who wasn't. The song is horrible. Get rid of the song. We can change all of that. We can burn our whole country down, and please don't do it. And please honor our veterans. I've got veterans in my family, active military right now. So the little children are like, what are you people fighting over? What's wrong with the song? And of course, how can you explain to a kid, don't sing that anymore in my presence.
Sure.
Stop that right now. It's just, oh, it's amazing.
Alveda, it seems that when you do that, you divide us even further. The NAACP calling it one of the most racist, pro-slavery, anti-black songs in the American lexicon, of course, referring to the 3rd verse, which in and of itself has some historical questions, because it may have been referring to the British as well, who were invaders in 1812.
The British were mixed into it.
Yeah,
one of my favorite songs happens to be Lift Every Voice and Sing, by the way. I love Lift Every Voice and Sing. All right. Yeah.
But how do we move past
it? But you know,
it?
Jesus said we have to be like little children. We have to be like the little children who are just singing the song. What's wrong with you people? Why are you fighting over this? We have to be like little children and love each other, want to embrace each other. And how can we do that? Somebody has to just say, hey, stop. Stop. Cease fire. We've got to call a ceasefire. We have to.
Right. To your great point, you know,
ceasefire.
At a certain point, we're just going to be burning down the entire country. Our hearts have got to come together.
No.
We are all in this fight together. That's such a great point.
We are.
And a message
And we're
that,
human beings. We're not separate.
Right.
Come together. Come together.
Right. Especially
please.
on Veterans Day, right? No better time to hear that. Dr. Alveda King, great to have you on with us this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your family for serving too.
Yeah,
Alveda.
for your service.
Thank you.
All right, now to a Fox News alert and a disturbing new threat. Terrorists turning drones into killing machines. Our next guest used drones to hunt terrorists for a living.
And with Football Sunday coming the day after Veterans Day this year, many are starting hashtag boycott the NFL. Will you join the movement?
Huh, I already have. And attention, ladies and gentlemen, you are no longer allowed on the subway. That's ladies and gentlemen. All aboard the new PC train.
Okay.
Wait till you hear about this one.
What you say?